about it. Particularly, I was moved by the speech of the leader of these people, called Elazar Ben Yair. I say the speech of Ben Yair, obviously it's the words which were put into his mouth by Josephus. But I believe that in the nucleus of that speech was actually the words which Ben Yair spoke. I was moved not so much by the philosophy, not so much by the historical description which are embodied in this speech, but rather by the human element, because I thought this human parts were perhaps the most genuine of the lot. That is to say, when Ben Yair said to all his people, when he was trying to persuade them to do this terrible thing as quick as possible, when he said to them, you must do it as quick as you can, before you will see your children, you'll hear your children crying, daddy, daddy, and you will not be able to help them, before you'll see your wife violated, and you will be helpless. And therefore, in fact, when in 1963, when I was asked by the archaeological institutions of Israel to head the expedition to Masada, I considered myself, in fact, very privileged. Because Masada, for all of us, is not just another archaeological site. In a way, if you like, we may call it a mausoleum of the nation's martyrs. And I think this is the main reason why I decided to excavate Masada not in the ordinary way, but to ask for volunteers to come. I thought this place deserved a different type of people to work. To our great amazement, nevertheless, in response of a very short article in some papers in the world asking for volunteers, we had a response of thousands of volunteers from 28 countries, Jews and non-Jews, all coming and flocking to help us in the work of Masada. They came from all walks of life, from beatniks to professors, although sometimes it was very difficult to know by the look who was who. And we promised them bad food and bad lodgings, and needless to say that we kept our promises, and nevertheless they came. And I'm saying this because I calculated that we concluded the excavations of Masada in 11 months of very hard work. But I calculated that were it not for the volunteers, it would have taken us 25 years of normal archaeological years of excavations. Really, they worked with zeal, and it shows again, it was very encouraging, even in these troubled days, that when you have something that people think that it is important, that it has a challenge, they'll come and work and volunteer to work for it. When we went to Masada, we knew from Josephus' history and from previous surveys that we are going to encounter and find Herod's buildings. Herod, King Herod the Great, was the first to fortify and build Masada as a potential asylum for himself. We knew that. But we were asking ourselves, what are we going to discover, archaeologically speaking, about the last days before Passover 73? That is to say, what are we going to discover, archaeologically speaking, relics which belong to the Zealots? Because of them, in fact, we went to Masada. And I can say right away that although we found in Masada beautiful palaces built by Herods with mosaic floors, multicolored, with frescoes, nevertheless, the great excitement, the great moments of excitement in the excavations were not those moments, at least as Jews, not archaeologically. And I would say as human beings, perhaps, not only as Jews. The great moments of the excavation were when we encountered the relics of those last moments of those people who really turned Masada into a symbol. They were not beautiful, but they spoke to us. They had a message in them much bigger than the beautiful mosaics. A burnt layer with ashes in which we found coins with Hebrew inscription for the freedom of Zion, coins actually struck in this very war against the Romans, or remains of sandals and clothing of women and children burnt. And we knew exactly who were the people to whom these relics belonged. These were, in fact, the greatest moments of the excavation. Altogether, at the end of the excavation, I may say